Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the 2018 Highfields Strengthening Families Fundraising Breakfast. I'm Siobhan Klepfer. I'm going to help MC today, and I'm a board member here for Highfields. And it is my great pleasure to be here with you once again for this wonderful breakfast. It's so great to see a packed room. Thank you so much. A lot of familiar faces here this year, so welcome once again. And thank you for your continued support of Highfields, and a lot of new faces too, which is great. So welcome to our Highfields Breakfast, and we hope to see you again. You're gonna learn a lot about Highfields, and I say this every year. I'm a board member, and I still learn new things every single year. It's awesome. Last year I was tearing up. We had some really good stories to share. It's emotional, it's happy, it's awesome. So a lot we're gonna pack in the hour. We're gonna get you out of here by 9 o'clock. So thank you once again for spending your morning with us and taking the time to learn more about what Highfields is all about. I'm a news anchor, so I could talk your ear off, trust me. But I just have one quick story to share. It's something that happened to me this morning. I'm a new mom. This time last year, I was 8 months pregnant with my first, and it was actually 3 days later that I gave birth. He came 5 weeks early, so it was a bit of a surprise. But every morning, as parents do, we worry about our kids, and I was doing my makeup this morning, and my mind was going all sorts of places, and I'm like, what if he gets in trouble in school? Or what if, when we're these teenagers and we're fighting and my husband and I, we can't communicate with him? And what if he gets into trouble? And what if he maybe gets in, with the wrong group and makes some bad decisions? And oh my gosh, all these what ifs were going through my mind. And I'm like, I was getting overwhelmed. And then Highfields. I'm like, what, Siobhan? Highfields, you have this resource, and it's such an incredible resource, and everything just kind of washed away, and then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, so what am I making for dinner? But seriously, it's like, if I need help, Highfields is there. If you need help, Highfields is there. If your neighbor needs help, Highfields is there, and what an incredible resource that we have here in Michigan to be able to say that. And so I hope you walk away today leaving this breakfast feeling the same way I do, that, man, we are lucky to have such a wonderful organization doing so much good work for so many families in mid-Michigan. And that's what you're going to learn more about today if you don't know what we're all about just yet. So that's all I'm going to say, but I had to share that because it was such a cool moment this morning. So thank you again so much for being here, everybody. I do want to take this time now to thank our sponsors, and you can hold your applause to the end, and we can just do one big, whooping thing. We want to thank Meyer, MSU, FCU, Message Makers. We want to thank the Strengthening Families Society and Drake Society members, board members, and past board members. Thank you. Table hosts and our breakfast committee. And also, any elected officials that we have here in the building today, thank you for your service and thank you for being here as well. So if I could get that round of applause now. At this point, we're going to ask you to clap a lot today. Sorry. It just makes everything feel better, doesn't it? If you could put your hands together one more time for Alfonso Boutre. He's going to introduce a couple of performers for you today, and it's pretty cool. And also, if you each have one of these little pamphlets that were seated at your table, if you flip it over to the back, there's some lyrics on here and some words, so you can kind of follow along with what you're about to hear, which is pretty powerful stuff. So, Alfonso.
Thank you. We are from Highfields, and this is the hip-hop group. We have Damon, and we have Mr. Jordan. Gentlemen, ready? Mm-hmm. This is my life story. See, I never thought I'd make it. Never thought I'd get out of here to tell my story. And I'm thankful that I'm still here. This is my life story.
Talking about my life like I'm stuck up in a phase. They left me when I was at a young age. My mama had to slave to get minimum wage. You can see all the pain when you look into my face. They took my brother from me and they threw him in a cage. The life that I was living almost got me in the grave, but I had to change my ways. Now I'm moving out the maze. If you ain't in my team, better move out the way. I'm done with the streets and I'm done with the game. Yeah.
This is my life story. See, I never thought I'd make it, never thought I'd get out of here to tell my story. And I'm thankful that I'm still here. This is my life story.
Started from the bottom on my way to the top. Now they hate to see me win, they just want me on the block. Going through the struggle, stay solid as a rock. Mama passed, I was young, I couldn't look towards my pops. One option left, had to look toward the Glock. But I'm focused on my future, I ain't worried about the Glock. Changed my mind through this rap and I can't go back to the block. Got the word in my hands, give me the key and keep it locked.
This is my life story. See, I never thought I'd make it, never thought I'd get out of here to tell my story. And I'm thankful that I'm still here. This is my life story. I'm not sure. Do they want us to stay up here? May we all bow our heads in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for bringing us all together. As we fellowship, I ask that you would just usher in nothing but peace and love. We thank you for everyone that is represented here, as well as organizations. We thank you for the food that is going to be prepared. We thank you for the hands that prepared it. We ask that it be nourishment to our bodies. These things and all things we ask in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy breakfast, and we'll continue with the program in just a bit.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Highfields Strengthening Family Breakfast. By show of hands, how many of you are returning guests to this breakfast? And then for our first-timers that have been to this breakfast for the first time, let me see your hands. Let's welcome them. Can we welcome these first-timers? So whether you are here for the first time or you are a returning member, I want to welcome all of you. Thank you so very much. My speech this morning and my talk is entitled Together. And it's because together we are on mission to help children and families. And I want to thank all of you for being on mission with us. Highfields began in 1962 as a vision with a small group of people right here in the Lansing area that wanted to create an organization where children and families could get the help they needed. The goal was to prevent out-of-home placement and if out-of-home placement, like at the residential program, occurred, they wanted the families to get the treatment here locally and not have to be sent away for a long period of time. Over the past 56 years, Highfields has expanded that, and today we serve 13 counties, almost 8,000 individuals annually receive services through Highfields programs. And I believe that we honor that humble very beginning right here in Lansing through the services that we continue to do. Highfields is very important to me for a very personal reason. As many of you know, Bonnie and I raised 4 children on our own, and then we also brought our nephew to live with us. For many years, having worked in juvenile justice, I've always been known as the juvie guy. People that knew me, people I went to church with, whenever they had trouble with their teen or adolescent, they would always call me for advice. Could you talk to my son? Could you talk to my daughter? Well, this became very personal for us when Bonnie's nephew was living in LA as a 6th grader, and he got himself into some serious trouble. Shot out all the windows in his school, multiple school suspensions. And so the idea is that little Daryl, as we often called him, would come spend the summer with Uncle Brian and would get fixed. Well, ultimately, that temporary solution turned into a permanent fix. And the sad thing is, in so many ways, is that he brought a lot of storm clouds with him. Daryl was a challenging young man, and as he got bigger, he was bigger than me. When he got to high school, a lot of those things that had impacted him at an early age were beginning to manifest himself. School difficulties continued, fights, suspension. As he got bigger, there was very often he would go toe to toe with me, nose to nose. I could feel his hot breath on my face, and he was a split second away from throwing a punch. I just knew it. And this all culminated one night when we'd had a particularly rocky evening, put the kids to bed, and Bonnie and I were settling down, and she said, "That's it. I'm done. I want him gone." And we were at wit's end. We didn't know what to do. So we called a number of people, our friends, our family, counselors, teachers, coaches, parapros, a juvenile probation officer that did courtesy probation for California, for Daryl here. And ultimately, together, we were able to turn Daryl's life around. And he went on to graduate high school, multiple sports, served a number of enlistments in the armed forces. Today is a wonderful dad, and he's got 2 wonderful little girls, great husband, great job. And people would say to us, "You saved his life." And I always say, it was a team effort. We did it together. And I look back on those, and there are times I don't regret it. I'm glad we did it, but it was difficult. He was older than our kids. We were fearful for our own kids, fearful for our kids' safety. And that's what Highfields does. Whenever families have difficulty and challenges and they call us, we mobilize, we come alongside them, and together we help them figure it out. We stabilize them, we strengthen them, and then we empower them and send them on to do great things. And we're so very excited. We make a difference. In our Reaching Higher after-school programs, we help elementary and middle school kids do better on standardized test scores than other kids because of their involvement in our program. We have justice-involved youth because of their involvement in Highfield services and our partnerships with the courts and the school districts and other organizations. They avoid long-term incarceration, they stay out of prison, they graduate high school, and they go on to get jobs and take college classes. Our community service staff, every day, 24/7, 365 days a year, are in homes, sitting at kitchen tables and in the living rooms, help families figure out how to overcome their challenges. In the area of behavioral health, children that are struggling with emotional, mental, cognitive issues, our staff come alongside them, help those families overcome. And so we are so very excited about you being with us to help partner so together we can make a difference. I have a vision that in 5 to 10 years, there will be no child that has to wait for services. I have a vision that we will continue to work in our communities with all other organizations to create a seamless delivery system of services so that no child or family will fall between the cracks. And because of your assistance, I believe that that vision is going to come true. Because of you and your help today, we can say, thank you. Together we're on mission. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for participating in our mission, and I appreciate everything that you do. So thank you. Give yourself a round of applause. Right now we're going to watch a short video, 7-minute video called Empowering.
The impact we hope to have with kids is to strengthen them, to give them the opportunity to take more responsibility for their lives and to improve relationships with others. If they can do those 2 things, we're looking at success. Every story that I've heard from folks who've been involved with Highfields, that's one of the things that they say. Highfields was there. I could count on them. I could call on them. That's critical to know that there is that trust, there's that stability, there's that relationship, there's that dependability.
By the time I was 11, my mom, she really couldn't control me no more because I was basically doing anything. So I ended up getting put out my mom's house. Basically after that, I just learned how to do certain stuff by myself and had to make money by myself. After I turned 16, I had basically stopped doing a lot of the stuff I was doing. I stopped robbing people. I didn't really I still got in the shootouts, but I didn't cause them. Like, I wasn't just looking for trouble how I used to. But I got pulled over with guns in the car when I was on my way home from work. And that's what got me here. Basically, everything I was doing, I thought I was doing to provide for my daughters. I'm happy I'm here because if I wouldn't have got caught that night, I would have either got caught a different time for something a lot worse, or I would have ended up getting killed. Since I got this chance from being here and being able to look at everything from a distance, I want to make sure that when I go home, I do everything right so they can have a dad in their life. I want to at least make it to see my daughter graduate and see her have a better life than I did.
I enjoy being a part of something that continues to impact lives positively. We're in 13 counties and we serve over 8,000 individuals every year. That's a tremendous influence. Wherever the kids are, that's what we're focused on.
Reaching higher has made a significant difference in Javon's life.
Got me out of the house for the first couple hours. You know how people are when they don't get their coffee.
He felt more comfortable because around, in class with the bullies, he felt like he couldn't be himself because when he was himself, they would make fun of him. And the Reaching Higher program showed him that there was a way around it. I love this program. It's perfect for anybody who has not only a kid struggling in school or struggling with just being at home, but it helps them not have to go out in their front yard, get attacked, maybe catch a stray bullet, get attacked by some vicious dog. We have all of that. We have drug deals going on right at the corner. So that's exactly how that happens. I couldn't have asked for a better program for my once struggling child.
The ability to communicate your needs and understand others' needs is truly important. And I've seen this with youngsters who didn't have anyone to talk to, or didn't know what to say or how to say it when they were in a situation, or didn't know how to talk to their parents, didn't know how to communicate to them their hurts or their feelings, or even be empathetic with what their parents were going through. So Highfields helps in so many ways to do that and strengthen and empower there.
Between the ages 15 to 17, I went through a lot emotionally and started acting out. I decided that I wanted to be louder instead of somebody yelling at me.
She was more my easy child because I could just say something to her and she'd be fine with it. Even correction, I just have to look at her and she'd know. When that changed, I knew something was going on with her because she would just tell me flat out no, which she never did before, and then she would just walk out the door, just actions like that. I was calling friends, calling the school, calling teachers, trying to find her. She was running away at that point, calling the police, and they would track her down and get her home. She'd just run again. One time she did get sent back home. She acted out. She just pretty much destroyed the house, throwing things and having a fit.
I broke down and kind of destroyed her house a little bit.
That's when the police were called in. They went upstairs to talk to her to calm her down.
I kicked in her TV. I kicked a hole in her wall.
But she wouldn't calm down, and she was angry and throwing things, and she's threatened suicide again. And
I can't express things the way I'd like to, and it just builds up and I burst.
Then she got very vulgar vocally with officers, and at that point they decided to take her. And I was at a loss, so I was praying. I said, God, I need help. I don't know where to go. I can go to my church, I can go to my friends, but they don't have a true understanding. And that's when Becky stepped into the picture.
Jean was hesitant to work with us because the program was so intensive, but at the same time, she was at a point where she just really wanted to do something to get her daughter back.
The MST program laid out all those foundational things that you can build on. It's just not, we'll do this and do this. They were building blocks.
Everything about MST is very strength-based, so it's one of the key components of our program. So it's looking at the strengths of that situation rather than always focusing on what's negative.
If it wasn't for getting pregnant in MST, I probably would not have finished high school. I probably wouldn't be talking to my mom. I had a lot of support that I didn't know was there until I did what I did. That is probably the only thing that has me here today is my mom and her faith and her love, because she never stopped.
Hearing what an impact it makes, because it might be on a day that we're having a really hard time with a client. So getting that feedback from parents years later is amazing and wonderful and so appreciative.
What Highfields does do is helping people to get the tools they need to be responsible for themselves, but also be able to effectively communicate with others, not only their needs, but understand your needs as well. Our families, your friends, the ones you know, the kids in your community, they need Highfields.
Isn't that a great video? As Siobhan said, you can clap and cheer anytime you want. I'd like to introduce both Jenny from our home-based program and Jeannie from our residential and Ingham Academy. Each of them are going to tell their story in their own words, and it's very moving. So let's start with Jenny as she tells her story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning. If you happen to have read Highfields' June newsletter, I was Carol, and my husband and I, we took in our nephew. I didn't think I'd get emotional this quick. His name, we're going to call him Ryan. We brought him into our family as our son about 6 years ago. We and our 3 girls, who are now ages 20, 19, and 17, gave up our life as we knew it. Our hearts were in the right place, but we really had no idea what we had committed to. He had lived his first year in our home with his parents. By the age 3.5, both of his parents had been incarcerated, and he had experienced much trauma from 1 to 3.5. When he came, he had been deprived of basic emotional needs. He had been deprived of proper nutrition, daily schedules and routines, and definitely deprived of the mother-child bonding and interactions that are so pivotal for proper brain development. One eyewitness had told me about times that they would come back to the home and Mom was passed out on the couch and Ryan was alone, dirty, and hungry. This individual also told me of times when she would take her child out at all hours of the night, going to places where children should not be. He was not speaking except for a few words that were challenging to understand. He was not potty trained, and he was frequently constipated. He banged his head on the floor at the slightest irritation or frustration. A few times he put his hands around my throat as to strangle me, just from my trying to redirect him in his activity. He was extremely fearful of new people and environments, and severe rage would surface at harsh tones or conflict. My daughters, being girls, would argue, imagine that, and he would immediately assess who was the victim and begin yelling to defend them. He regularly threw tantrums in which could be violent, and so I would use the basket hold, and for anyone that doesn't understand what a basket hold is, you hold them with their back against your chest, you hold their arms down with your arms and their legs with your legs. And that was more common in my day than what I like to remember. Those fits would last 30 to 60 minutes or longer. And while all of what I just shared is true, this is what really gets me, is that that boy in his own heart is the sweetest, most loving boy. He really is. When he feels safe and happy, he lets himself show his tender side. And he loves to feel special and loved. He often tells myself or my daughters how beautiful we are. He'll ask my husband how his day of work was and tells him how he appreciates that he works for us. He tells us that he loves being in a loving family and a safe home. Probably my favorite, and it is a little selfish, is when he tells us that we're the best mom and dad that he's ever had. And I know that he knows what he's saying when he says that. Those positives have been the rocket boosters that have kept us going through the years. Excuse me. After 4 years of doing life in a negative way, we had become quite hopeless. Although we had seen some improvement, it was slow, and there were many setbacks. This place of desperation brought us to Highfields through our local community of mental health. We began working with our therapist, Gayla Ignacio, in January of 2017. She led us through the parent management training and helped us to understand the effects of chronic trauma. She taught us that the bulk of Ryan's behavior was not logical, but emotional knee-jerk responses straight from the limbic system. She helped us learn how to respond to the triggered tantrums and how to process the emotions that we ourselves were experiencing. She did play therapy with Ryan, and for a few weeks he did well. However, he did not like that she would identify with his play. He began demanding her silence and that she not even look at him. She taught me then how to engage with him during play therapy while she observed. Other methods were introduced, such as reading books that identified with his emotions, games that secretly brought issues up to the surface, and then also family bonding games. She taught me how to write social stories so that I could front load him so he could know what were the expectations before situations and circumstances arise. While it seems that and it has seemed to me that there wasn't much progress for Ryan because he simply would not open up to Gayla, the reality is that the service that Highfields provided us wasn't just for Ryan. Because of the one-on-one time that I was able to have with Gayla, I was able to move from hopeless to hopeful. She helped me uncover the hidden emotions inside of myself that were being triggered. Our entire family has been helped in dealing with the daily challenges at hand, as well as the grieving process of laying down our life that we had planned for at this stage. It isn't enough to just work with the child. Ryan has been helped tremendously because I was able to identify within myself the areas that I was ignorant to and then process them and move forward. And I no longer respond to him from a triggered state in the moments that he's being triggered. We've come so far since working with Gayla. Our positive interactions are definitely outweighing the negative. Ryan is beginning to communicate his feelings with words more often. It's been over a year since I've had to use the basket hold on him, which I'm really glad because he's getting stronger. I've gained tactic in getting him to go to his room without having to use physical force, and I no longer have to hold the door shut while he's in timeout. Even better than that is we're able to get him to change his behavior without having to send him to his room, at least 75% of the time. While we have a continued journey ahead of us, the advancement that we have made is so amazing. Where would we be without Highfields? I honestly don't know. I'd like to believe I would have made it here somehow at this time. Yet the truth of the matter is that life probably would have gotten uglier and more devastating in the process. Having Gayla, who already had the knowledge and the experience, teach us, coach us, walk with us, listen, support, validate, and even value us in the process was tremendously priceless. I want to thank Highfields for the quality of therapists that they provide, and I thank you, the donors, for you have invested in Ryan's life, in my family's life, and the life of every Highfield client. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jeannie, and I'm a mother of 4. Look at me. I've been a breakfast lunch cashier for 12 years within the Lansing School District. What brought me to Highfields was my 2 middle children, Erica and Nate. I promised I wouldn't do this. Their behavior or lack of respect for me or authorities. They decided they could start doing as they please. Normal teenage stuff, right? They ran away and made up a lie to get out of trouble with me. They broke curfews multiple times. After so much, they were finally placed on probation. The court stepped in just as I thought I was losing the battle. They started attending Ingham Academy. My daughter Erica continued at Ingham Academy. Mind you, Erica was an honor roll student until the middle of her freshman year at her first high school. She went from a 3.8, 4.0 student to a 0.8. Every class was either E's or a 0%. That's the start of her spiral. A broken relationship, and then being bullied by half the guys in the school. At Ingham Academy, Erica got it together after some time and got a job. She even started going on college tours. She did amazing under the supervision of Ingham Academy. Upon graduation, she was accepted into 4 colleges, with 2 of them being academic scholarships. She was the first student in the program to receive that many college acceptance. Nate, on the other hand, became more defiant in and out of the youth center. Unfortunately, it became a normal for Nate. Then tether, which he decided to remove twice. Both times, I had to report him, which is the hardest thing a parent has to do. Both times, I found him, called the police to pick him up. The last time, he had a concussion from being hit in the back of his head. He was taken to the youth center, which they had to take him to the urgent care to have him checked. It's the worst thing a parent wants to see, and not be able to make sure that your child is okay yourself. That was the last straw. I couldn't do it anymore. I told his probation officer the same thing. He needed to be away from the negative influences that were in our neighborhood. He was a very intelligent young man. Nate was placed in Highfields Residential Treatment Facility in Onondaga in June 2015. He had a hard go, but finally pulled it together under the dedication of the caring staff. They have this determination to not let you give up on yourself and push you to be a better person. I had seen such a huge change in my son. The respect was back, the caring child I raised. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. We still had a lot to go work on. While he was there, we had family weekends and Sunday visits, even a few with just me and him to sit and talk about changes that would be made at home. He earned 14 high school credits and was on track to possibly graduate a year early with his older sister. Nate came home March 23rd, 2016. After 9 months at Highfields, he had changed so much. I could see it in his spirit, his attitude changed so much, more respect, going out of his way to help. He was so happy, and so was our family to have him back home with us. He was such a motivator. We called him our rock that held us together. Standing up to his older sister, letting her know she was wrong. He had plans for his future, something positive. He wanted to be an anesthesiologist. To hear that he wanted to do something so big, and so far as he had pushed himself was amazing. Honestly, without Highfields, I probably would have lost my son Nate a lot sooner than what I did. His life was taken over a fight 3 weeks from coming home from Highfields. I look back at that day and I wonder what I could do different. Why didn't I call somebody to get him away from the situation altogether? These are things that Highfields still works with my family. They are still a part of our lives. Every time any of us go to the campus, we are greeted with compassion and respect. They mentor my youngest daughter just by being there, listening to her, and being a positive role model in her life. All because they are amazing, supportive, and caring individuals that put people that need someone first. My biggest thing was I wanted to be the best mom. I dislike telling my kids no. Who doesn't? But I had to learn how to. Nate was my biggest challenge with that. He loved to push the buttons until he pushed you into a yes. Little did I know I was a great mom. Who else would see the downward spiral that your children were on and step up and do something about it? It hurt like crazy to not have him home with me, but I knew it was what was best. I learned how to give each of my children consequences for their action, good and bad. The biggest lesson I learned was I couldn't control another person's actions. I've taught my children right from wrong, and I've given them all the skills they needed, but I needed to remember I was a person also and deserved more from them. Some of you might ask why we still have so much contact with Highfields after our family's lost. Nate started something that we continue in his name. Our family donates personal hygiene products, laundry soap, fabric softener sheets, toilet paper, paper towels, every other month to these young men that are away from home and family. They need the love and support my son got while he was there by us. No child, no matter the circumstances of their actions, should be left without moral support. Someone has to show them people still care about them. We can change the world one person at a time, but why not start with the ones that need it the most? That's what Highfields has taught me the most. There's no I in team. No one left behind. Or as they like to say, focus up. Make them hold themselves accountable. I recommend Highfields to everyone I know that has children that need help. Children that have lost their way in the world and fight us every step of the way to show them they can do so much better. Highfields residential program is one of the best I've heard or seen of firsthand. Where would I be without Highfields? Lost, completely lost.
Jenny and Jeannie, thank you so much for your courage, your perseverance, and your willingness to share your stories. At this point, I'd like to invite Emily Matthews of the DART Foundation and Brandy Ekren, board member of Border Water Light, to join me here. Emily Matthews is a manager at the DART Foundation, which continues to be a great supporter and partner with Highfields, and Emily is going to bring some words and an announcement.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Emily Matthews, and I'm manager of the DART Foundation. I want to start my comments by thanking the speakers today and presenters today that had the tremendous courage to share their own stories. It's difficult to speak before any audience, let alone talk in such a deep and personal fashion about stuff going on within your own family. So I wish to thank you all. The DART Foundation focuses its mission on STEM education and workforce development, but it reserves a portion of its budget for certain legacy organizations, and there are only a handful of those, and those are organizations that are particularly important to the DART family, and Highfields is one of those organizations. Claire Dart, the matriarch of the DART family, volunteered for Highfields for many years, and the DART Foundation's given over $2 million since its inception. Most recently, a $750,000 gift that was also matched by several other funders in our community, many of whom are here today, and I'm giving them a nod out there. They can see me, I'm sure. It is my honor and privilege on behalf of the DART Foundation to announce a $25,000 match for today's breakfast and continues through the end of the year. In addition to the DART Foundation, my husband Aaron and I will be donating personally. So on behalf of the DART Foundation and the Matthews household, I'd like to ask you if you will join us in contributing to Highfields. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. With the DART Foundation's support, your gifts are actually going to go further today. As Brian introduced, my name is Brandy Ekren. I'm the General Counsel of the Board of Water and Light, and I have the honor of being able to serve as a board member for Highfields. Highfields is very personal to me. Like many of these stories, my childhood isn't far from that, but when I was a kid, we didn't have at-risk. We didn't have a Highfields, but I did have private benefactors that really contributed to stabilizing, strengthening, and empowering me to be a successful individual. And so what I'm going to have the honor and privilege to ask you to do today is what an individual or several did for me, but on a larger scale. So I have a script, so bear with me. I'm not really good with scripts. But if you do feel inspired today and you'd like to support the ongoing operations and needs of Highfields, I invite you to join me in supporting them. So what I'd like to do at this time is, so for table captains, if you could take a moment and just pass out your cards to your guest. All right, so starting at the top of your card, this side, the Strengthening Family Society Pledge level names are meant to give you a sense of what the contribution does: stabilize, strength, and power. So the first giving level, the gift of stability, is a pledge of $1,000 each year for 5 years. That's about $83 a month. Very modest contribution from my perspective. The second giving level is the gift of strength, a pledge of $5,000 a year for 5 years. And then the final gift, the gift of empowerment, that probably goes the furthest, is $10,000 per year for 5 years. And so if you're joining me in the pledge support for Highfields mission, I want to thank you on behalf of the children and the families. If you prefer to give at a different level, just indicate at the card how much you would like to give and then how long you would like to give. And then if you have a different idea, perhaps a stock, or how to maybe earmark some of your other contributions, just check the box where it says that you have other ideas and other thoughts. And we can definitely contact you and get those from you as well, so we can continue to support the operations. But whatever you do today, which includes your gift of time, coming to hear these stories, and enjoying the camaraderie of our group, we sincerely appreciate your support. But I'll give you a couple minutes right now just to fill out your pledge cards, and then when you're finished, just pass your envelopes to your table captains, and then that'll be about it.
Hi, everybody, once again. Hello. Hi, me again. I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us for our 2018 Highfields Strengthening Families Fundraising Breakfast. We so appreciate you taking the time this morning to be with us, learning more about Highfields, donating if you are. Thank you so much for your continued support. Have a great Thursday, and we hope to see you again next year. And thank you for supporting Highfields. It means a lot. Thanks, everyone.